Hello, good morning, and welcome to this inaugural webinar from Scotland's Housing Network. Thank you very much for joining us this morning for this webinar on how to use the business intelligence tool to make the most of the charter results this morning we just released. I'm sure you're all delighted that the week is finally over and you've submitted them for another year. Firstly, I'll just apologise for the strange camera angle. It's right at the bottom of our laptop, but we'll soon move to the screen share, so you won't have to worry too much about that. So this morning we're just going to run through the basics of logging into the business intelligence tool and using the tools that are built in for you to create charts, create tables, and just get the data out for benchmarking. So let's get started. So as you can see on the screen here, I've logged into our members website. So if you don't have a login for the members website, please give us an email and we'll get you all registered. But this is the only way to access the business intelligence tool, so it is required. On the right-hand side of the screen here, just under the Scotland's Housing Network logo, you'll just see a button that says log into the business intelligence tool. In here is where the magic happens. So if I've clicked in there, it automatically logs me into the business intelligence tool. And on the left-hand side here, you've got the box which says SHN. Within here are all the tools that you can use to interrogate the data that you've given us. If I click reports, it'll open up a series of documents that you can open. But you can change the view quite easily on this drop-down menu here on the top right-hand corner. This makes things a little bit easier for you to find. So if I select folder view, you can see a series of folders that are available to you. I'm in the training mode just now, and you should have a similar view when you log in, except you will have an additional folder which refers to your organization. I'll explain a little bit more about that later. And I should just say at this point as well, that if you have any questions or you want to ask something that you think we've not covered properly or just go over something again, if you are logged into YouTube, you can use the chat box on the left, and my colleague James is in the room with me. He's going to be monitoring that. If you aren't logged into YouTube or you don't have a YouTube account, what you can do is you can email us and we'll keep a tab on that. And if anyone has any questions, we'll refer to that during the webinar. So if you email data@scotlandshousingnetwork.org, we'll keep a note on that. So that's data@scotlandshousingnetwork.org, or just use the chat function if you are logged into YouTube. So I'm here in the folder view of the report section, and you can see that we've got a folder that says My Reports, which is where you can store your own reports once you've created them. Below that, there is one that says Chart Generators, and within here you have the ability to create charts and tables. So I've just opened that up by clicking this blue arrow here. And the first thing we're going to show you today is how to create charts using the charter data that's just been submitted to us this week. To open this up, you just click the View button. And automatically opens up with the default indicator, which is indicator 1, percentage satisfied with overall performance. And the default peer group today is large urban RSL. So that's RSLs with more than 1,000 stock. So we don't have the full peer group available quite yet because we're still waiting on some of the ARC returns coming in. We have well over 50 just now, and we've got about another 10 waiting that came in this morning, which we'll upload this afternoon. And we would just ask if anyone still has an ARC to send to us, please do so at your earliest convenience, so we can get it uploaded and you can benchmark your results and others can benchmark against you. So we're looking at the chart generator here, and you can see on the left-hand side of the screen we have a column chart, and on the right-hand side of the screen we've got a bar chart. And these are showing indicator 1, percentage satisfied with overall service, and the large urban peer group. As you can see, link group is showing in red. That's because I have logged in as a sort of link group employee, if you like. When you log in yourself, your own organization should appear in red. So to manipulate this data, what you need to do is open up what we call the filter panel. And then you can do this by clicking this blue icon on the left here. It's quite small and it looks like 2 arrows. If you hover over it, you should get a wee message saying show filters. So if I click on that, we see here a series of drop-down menus. And it's these drop-down menus that allow us to change the data that we see in the column and bar charts. So you can see this data that's showing here does correspond. So we've got the large urban peer group is selected. We've got indicator 1 is selected. And down here, you can see the year of the charter that we're looking at. So we can change this quite easily. If I wanted, for instance, to look at a different indicator, I just simply click on the drop-down menu and I can select the one that I want. So they are in order of the reference number that the regulator gives them. So it goes from I1 through to I36 or 37, and you've got the context ones before that begin with a C. So if I wanted, for instance, to look at some repairs data, I would maybe go for indicator 16, and you can type in if you know the code. So if I type in I16, it'll automatically come up. I click on that and we can see that straight away it's changed the data on the right hand side, and we're now looking at the satisfaction with repairs service that just came in this week. So it's good news for link group there. They're currently at the top. And on the right hand side, it's the same with the bar charts. Now we can see on this monitor it's not quite fitting in to the screen. So what we can do is there are these grey boxes in the top right hand of the corner of each half of the screen. When I click on these, we get a full screen version. Everything, so we can easily see all the data that's available, and we can see the organizations at the bottom there. So if I wanted to use this chart in front of me in a report, if I wanted to put it into a PowerPoint presentation or something like that, what we recommend you do is use what's called the snipping tool. Now, some of you might be familiar with this and some of you might not be, but it's very easy to use and it's built into all Windows computers. So to open it up, what you need to do is go to your start bar, and I don't have it on this screen, but if you type in snipping, it'll come up and you click on it and you get an icon that looks like this, or a window that looks like this. If you select new, you can use the cursor to drag over the portion of the screen that you want to select, and it creates an image for you based on that portion of the screen. Now all you need to do is open up Word or open up PowerPoint, and you can paste the image that you've selected straight in. So I've got Word here in front of me. If I press Control V on my keyboard, we'll see that's the image gone straight in. You could quite quickly populate a report or a PowerPoint presentation or any other document that you want to prepare with the charts that you can create within the Business Intelligence tool, doing the method that I've just done. So I'm going to close the snipping tool for just now, and I'll close this window down. So the second step would be, what if you don't want to look at the large urban peer group that's selected by default? Well, there's two ways of changing the organizations that you see. In the top drop-down menu, what we have are the predefined peer groups that the Scotland's Housing Network uses. So we have, most of them will be familiar to you because the regulator used them in the past. We have large LA and GHA, large stock transfer, large urban RSLs, medium local authority, and so on. So you can select one or more of these to create a different peer group. So if I was to go to medium local authorities and maybe also add in large LA and GHA to see the two at the one time, I can select both of those, we'll see they're now under the drop-down menu, and if I click filter, we'll see that the chart has changed to show those organizations. Of course, there's no red column anymore because link don't fit into that peer group, but we can see those organizations on the right-hand side there. If you wanted to look at the previous year to maybe get a snapshot of 1 year, then the next year to see how things have changed, you just change the drop-down menu here for the charter year, and you can see that we've got all the charter data going back to the beginning in 2013-14. So if I quickly click on last year, which is 16-17, we'll see the data we had there. So this is the full peer group now, of course, because we have all the data from last year and we're still waiting for 1 or 2 for this year. But you can see how things have changed by going back and forth. Now, of course, that's perhaps not the best way to get an idea of how things have changed. And we also have what is called our trend graph tool. So to open up a different tool when you're at this stage, you need to click on the load button. When I click this, it'll take us back to our saved reports, and we're still in folder view. And I can select the trend graph, which is the next one down below the column chart. If I click view to open that up, and we can see here we're in a similar situation as we were when we opened up the column chart generator. We've got indicator 1 in front of us. It's opened up this time with the large local authority and GHA peer group. And on the right-hand side, we have a table showing us the data, and on the left-hand side, we have a trend graph. Now, currently, this is just a set of blue lines, but we have 2 options in the top left-hand corner here. And as you can see, single color has been selected. Now, what that does is it puts every line for every organization as blue. But if we click multicolored, each organization is designated a separate color, and below the chart is a legend which lets you know which color belongs to which organization. You can also use this legend to click on and off lines that you want to see or don't want to see. So at the moment, we can see that 4 or 5 of these organizations haven't submitted data to us yet, so you might want to take those away if you're going to generate a report, and you can do so just by clicking on them. The filter panel works a similar way as it did for the chart generator we saw before for the column charts. Click that to open up, and you'll see the main difference here is you don't have a year to select because it's a trend automatically selects every year for you. But again, if I select the large urban peer group, which I did previously, and clicked filter and moved back to single color, we'd see the red line for link. Now, this is ridiculously messy. You could never use this in a report. But what you might want to do is create a trend graph that just compared against 1 or 2 organizations rather than the full peer group. And we can do this as well. You don't have to use one of the predefined peer groups within the peer group description. So if I was to remove this by clicking the X, we have no peer group selected. The drop-down menu below gives a selection of every social landlord in Scotland that's registered with the Scotland's Housing Regulator. And I can select organisations by clicking on them. These are searchable as well, so if I were to start by typing in link, it would appear. And I'm going to do that just because I've logged in as them. We'll keep a red column on this, or a red line on the screen. And I'll just select 1 or 2 at random without any real thought going into it. I'll try and remember the ones that we've received so far. I'm just picking, I think 3 will do to begin with. So there we go. I've selected Horizon, Link, and Partick, and we've got a trend going along there, and we can clearly see that Link are in red. Now, the other thing you might like to do, of course, is compare yourself against the sector. Now, how can you do that when we know that when you have too many lines on the screen at once, it becomes a mess and we can't really use it? So if I was to remove Horizon and Partick, and then I am able to add the averages that are built into the system. So for instance, if I type in all, we have all LAs and all RSLs available. I don't have to type in all, they are available if I was to scroll down and find them that way as well. So if I select both of these options and click filter, we now have 3 lines on the screen. We still have link, which is appearing in red. We also have 2 other lines. And I can see at the bottom that the greenish color is all RSLs and the darker blue are all LAs. So we can see from this that link on this particular indicator, which is satisfied with overall service, link are outperforming local authorities and are just ever so slightly below the RSL average. Now, of course, the averages we have built into the system just now are for this year of the charter are based on the responses we have so far received. So that figure is likely to change slightly as more ARC returns come in and we can get a more accurate figure. So that is how you use the business intelligence tool to create charts. So you've got the option of using the column chart generator and the trend graph generator. And using the trend graph, you can also see the data on the right-hand side. But one of the most common things that people want to use the tool for is just to export data and dump it straight into Excel. They want to get as much of the actual figures out as they can, and you can do that as well. So if I click on load, we can see that we've got trend graph as an option. We can see we've got column graph chart as an option, but we also have table generator. So to open the table generator, click view again. And now when we open up, we can see the default table it's created. It's again indicator 1. Again, it's large local authorities and GHA. And on the right-hand side, we have last year's data and what we have received so far in this year's data. I know that we actually have 1 or 2 more of these in that came in this morning, so they will be available in a couple of hours' time. We use the filter panel as we have done previously to manipulate the data, and it's the exact same idea, except this time we can select as many indicators and as many years as we like. So I shall use the large urban. I'll select a few more indicators. We'll just use some at random. And I'll click filter. So we've got indicator 1, 10, 11, and 12 for the large urban peer group. If I click filter, as quick as you like, I mean, that was less than a second, we've got indicators 1, 10, 11, and 12 as selected. We've got all of the large urban peer group there. It's handily put the ones that we've got returns for this year at the top, and we can see the 2 years of data next to each other for each of those indicators for all those organizations. You can do this with any indicator within the charter, and you can also do this with the network data. Of course, the network data for this year doesn't come in for a couple of weeks' time, so we don't have any of that in yet, but those indicators are available as well. And if you typed in N and a number, you would see the network indicators all have an N to start with. So of course, the main question at this stage is, okay, I can see the data in front of me. I don't want to have to type that out myself. How do I get it into Excel? And it's basically a case of selecting it, copying it, and pasting it. So if I was to hover my mouse right, putting the cursor right in the top corner there, clicking and dragging down to the bottom corner, which I can do here. You can see they're all selected. And at this point, I use the keyboard to copy with Control-C. So Control-C copies everything. I have Excel open here. So I've got a blank document. If I press Control-V in a second or two time, there we go. I have all that data straight into Excel. And the formatting has been kept, so we don't have to worry about that. And there we have it. Dead simple. We can do that with any indicator and any year and any organization. Again, if I was just to select organizations I know we have, I'll just put some of these in. Maybe put some of the averages in. And we've got a bit of a random selection of all LAs, all RSLs, link, and Partick. Click filter, and again we have our table straight away. So you can do this with every indicator if you wanted. It would take a little bit more time. It wouldn't be instantaneous, but that is how easy and how quick it is to extract the data for the charter. So that's how to use the three generator tools to create. To use these to create what you want, you have to know going in what you want to see. You have to know what indicators are available. We also have what are called performance dashboards built into the system. Now, what these do is they give you a look at a whole section of data. For example, you could look at all the repairs data that we hold or all the arrears data we hold. So let's have a look at that just now. So I've clicked load, and again, I've come to our reports view. I'm just going to close these down, and we have performance dashboards down here. If I click the blue arrow to open that up, we can see we've got what we call performance dashboards for arrears. We've got one for context. We've got one for homelessness, relets and voids, repairs and maintenance, and tenant satisfaction. So I'm going to look at the top one here, which is arrears. I open that up by clicking view. And we can see we come to what we call a dashboard here. Now on the left-hand side there, we've got all the indicators which we have available within this dashboard. So these refer to the charter and to network indicators that we collect. Along the top, we have different tabs, which again tell us which indicators are included within the tabs. These are in the same order as the list we see in front of us. So if I start by clicking the first one, which says I-30, rent collected, and I-24, evictions for arrears, we know those are indicators 30 and 24. And we have in front of us straight away two column charts. Now these refer to the latest charter data. I know that because here we have it highlighted in blue 2017-18 for both indicators, indicator 30 and indicator 24. I can also look at last year's data by clicking the 2016-17 tab. I can look at the trend data by clicking the trend tab, and I can also look at the table. Of course, all this data, as within the chart generator tools, is manipulated using the filters, which we can open with the two white arrows here. So medium local authorities has been selected. If I choose large urban, let's take a look. We can see the full large urban peer group. And just as before, if I go into the graphs, blinker in red again because I'm still logged in as them. We have network data in these dashboards as well. So if you look further along, we can see indicators beginning with N. So if I was to click on arrear level at year end, of course, this has a brackets 2017 because it's, no, I'll just refresh, it seems to have frozen for me. If they have brackets 2017 next to them just because we don't have the data in yet. So I click on that. What we can see is some of our network data. So if you don't do our network return, this is what you're missing out on. So we have additional indicators. These fall within the arrears section, and it's things like former tenant arrears recovered, how many of your tenants are terminating with arrears, what are their arrear levels at year end, and we have graphs like this. So on the right hand side, you can see one that's slightly different. That's done in tiers. And basically what that shows us is the level of arrears that tenants are finishing with at year end, and it's in bands between 0 and 250, 250 to 500, 500 to 1,000 and over 1,000. So you get a little bit more insight with the network indicators. So what I haven't shown you so far is how do you save your work? So if I was to go back to, for example, our table generator, I'll go into the chart generators, into table. If I go through the effort, for example, of creating the peer group that I want, I don't want to have to do that every time I log in. So if I select a few, I'll just use the drop-down menu. If I select a few random, there's a few random organizations all selected. Of course, you'll have a much more methodical approach, but this is just for a demonstration. I'll add in a few random indicators. There we go. So now I've selected the peer group, and this is the peer group I want going forward. You know, I've decided, or my board has decided, or management have decided, this is who we're going to compare against. We don't really need to look at much else just now. Up in the top blue ribbon, we have the star icon. The star icon allows you to save your report, and in doing so, it will save the peer group that you've selected. So if I click on that, I get to choose a report name, which I'll just call Table 1, and I can select a folder to save it in. Now, there'll be two options for all SHN members. Whilst you will see all the folders that are there, you'll only be able to save in your My Reports folder, or a second folder that will be available to you, which is the organization folder. So it would either be Link or Falkirk Council or Partick Housing Association. And the main difference between these two folders, if you save a document within your My Reports folder, only you can access that. If you save a document in your organizational folder, the rest of your team will also be able to access that. So it means you can share work. But I don't have an organization associated with me, so I'm just going to save it in the My Reports folder. So I've selected that, it's gone yellow, and you can see just here it says My Reports. Now in the bottom right-hand corner, we have two options. We've got Save and Save and Archive. We always suggest that you click Save. The difference between the two is the Save and Archive option will save the data as it is at that time. And the Save function just says Save will update as the data updates. So for example, if I click Save and Archive, you'll only ever see the results that we have just now. If you click Save, the table that you save, when you load it up again, will include any data that we receive in the meantime, and will include any corrections that might happen over the summer. So we always suggest you click Save unless you have a specific reason you want to capture a snapshot of the data at the time. So I've clicked Save. It says Report Saved. I'm just going to clear all of this, and I'm going to click Load. So we can see it's all gone here. If I click Load, and under my Reports folder, we've got Table 1. Click View, and the data as I saved it is all there. And it's still easy enough to manipulate it and change it, but it is as I left it when I saved it. So that's me more or less covered what I intended to this morning. Hopefully that's been helpful to everybody. If you're in full screen, when you go back to the regular small screen size, what you'll see in the description is a feedback form. It'd be greatly beneficial to us if you would fill in the form. It's only 3 questions, so it'll take you less than a minute, and it'll just give us a bit of an indication of how you felt the webinar went, and if you think it did go well, what we can maybe cover in the future. So I'll end this by saying thank you very much, and thank you again to everybody that sent in the data. Of course, we couldn't do this without the data, and hopefully, if people think this has gone well, we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.